Welcome back to the Charlie Talks While He Drives series. This is actually probably going to be a longer series this time because I have a lot of driving that I got to do. And I think there won't be as many tunnels this time around. I am currently in Busan. I'm leaving Janggrim Harbor on my way to Gungang cable car to go ride the cable car to the top of the mountain. And I figured I have about 40 minutes to kill here, and I kind of just wanted to discuss my arrival to Busan. It's been different. So Busan, as I remember it, was my favorite city the last time I was here, about 10 years ago. And what I've seen of it so far is totally different. I don't recognize any of it. And
in 500 meters, be careful of traffic signals. Speed limit is 70 kilometers per hour.
There's going to be a lot of interruptions. The car makes a lot of noises. It'll tell me if there's a speed bump, if there's a traffic signal, all sorts of crazy things. So I am here in Busan, and when I arrived, there was actually two ways for me to get here. Not thinking about the fact that I was going to be here for like 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks, 18 days. I was thinking, oh, I'll just bring my small suitcase and I'll just put all my clothes in there and I'll be fine. And I was like, wait, how many clothes am I actually going to be packing? Because I got to do laundry while I'm down here, and then that means I have to bring laundry detergent. Or I mean, I could always buy it here, but there's all these choices you have to make. When I found round trip tickets to Busan for $60, I'm just like, sure, why not? I'll just buy it real quick. And not thinking about the weight limits of an airplane. That was a mistake. I measured my bags, and I mean, I'm just gonna have to gamble when I go to Jeju about my photo backpack. I just hope they don't measure it, because if they do, I'm totally like screwed. I do have kind of a plan to get around it should that happen, but I really hope they don't. But that being said, I bought the tickets for round trip to fly here, and then I figured, hey, I could actually get tickets on the train, and there's no weight limit for the train. You could take as heavy of a suitcase as you want and put it on the train. That being said, I decided to take a train, and I went to go look for train tickets. There's plenty of them. Grabbed a 6 a.m. ticket so that I could arrive here by 8:30ish. That was the fast train, and there was a purpose for that. The reason being is, I remember what I was about to say. My rental car, which I am sitting in right now, was via Priceline because I couldn't find a Lotte in a convenient area to rent a vehicle. So I went through Priceline, which went through Avis, and it was right outside of the Busan station. Now, just saying that it's outside of Busan station doesn't really help you all too much. It could be anywhere. Like, you know, I was looking for it, and there's no Avis signs anywhere. Avis, I don't know what money they're getting out of the deal, but they're totally getting screwed on advertisement. Like, I am in an SK car rental car or vehicle, and I never did the showcase of the other car, did I? The previous car that I rented from Lotte, when I rented a subcompact car, it was a Kia Morning, which is great. It was a tiny little car. I was kind of expecting the same thing. And yeah, this time they're like, free upgrade. Kind of like Avis does, except I didn't want the free upgrade. I wanted a tiny car because of the places I'm going to. I mean, I'll admit I'm far more comfortable in this car than I was in the Kia Morning, but now I'm in a Hyundai Avante, and the car is not ginormous. It's no like Genesis or anything like that, but it's definitely a lot bigger than that Kia Morning one just passed me. And I am worried about like the parking situations. I got lucky just now at Hungary. I mean, I was really hoping for like a Mini or something like that. That's what they advertised, but that didn't happen. Anyhow, being that Avis is nowhere on the building, it's not even advertised as an Avis rental site at SK Car Rental. So if you look it up online, there is no Avis building anywhere near Busan Station. So when I first arrived, I'm just like, oh, I'll just go talk to the information desk and hopefully she'll be able to help me out. And I was wrong. The lady is like, I have no idea what you're looking for. There's no Avis in this area. I'm like, okay, I think they're partnered with SK Car Rental. Can you look for an SK Car Rental? And the lady was just like, no. Okay. She's like, there's no Avis here. Like, I'm like, okay, I get that. And then I'm typing this in like a translating app. And I'm like, can you look up an SK Car Rental? And she's like, you know what? Show me the address again of the Avis. And I showed her, and it's the Teachers Mutual Fund building or something like that. And it's like this ridiculous address. Like, they should not put that as the address. They should use a building number and a street number or a street name and just go with that. But they didn't. And so she's like, oh, I know where that is. You exit the building and go to your right. So I did. I exited the building, or the station, went to my right, and I was walking all around. And mind you, my car rental's at 9, and we reached the station at 8:33. And I'm walking all around, and I'm like, okay, it's pushing 8:50 now. Like, where is this thing? She says it's right outside. So then I go looking like for someone to talk to, and there's a Starbucks in that area. So I followed a really well-dressed gentleman who looked like a banker, and I'm like, hey, excuse me, can you help me for a moment? And the gentleman, he's really well spoken in English, and he's like, that building doesn't exist here. I don't understand what that is. I've worked here my entire life and I've never heard of it. And it's funny because he doesn't think to translate it into Korean and look at it that way. He thinks that it must be in English, right? And I get there's kind of like this double standard here, because he has to think both in English and in Korean, right? And I don't mean like to help me. I mean like when he reads something, he has to think, are they writing it in English or are they writing it in Korean? Because like sometimes they'll use the English word just spelt out in Korean. So the guy's like, that building doesn't exist here. I've worked here my entire life. And I was like, excuse me, if I provide you a phone number, would you be willing to call them and get an address, like an actual street address, so that I can navigate to them? And he's like, yeah, you have their phone number? And I'm like, just give me a moment, I'll pull it up. And I did. And he calls them and he asks them, hey, where are you at? I was looking for it's SK that picked up, and they don't advertise that they're Avis. And he's like, I'm terribly sorry. I thought this was Avis. And I mean, at least that's what I think he said. He said something in Korean and Avis, which I clearly heard in English. And the guy was like, oh yeah, we do both. And he's like, okay, I'm outside of Busan Station at the local Starbucks. Where's your building at? And they explain it to him. And then so he then goes, he's like, oh, okay, I see it. And he walks up to me and he goes, hey, could you follow me real quick? I'm like, of course. And he's like, the building is right across the square. So the information lady told me to go right outside of the Seoul station, right? If she would have just said to go left, it was the first building on the left. Like, you can't miss it. Huge sign that says SK Rental. And I was already thinking to look for that. And I was like, oh man, all right, this is a bad start. And so I'm like, let's just get there. Let's get the car. And I go in, and there's this really confusing way of getting in because of COVID. Like, you have to go in through the garage. There is the check-in systems there and everything. And so I'm like, okay, let's get in. And really old gentleman, super polite, super helpful, was I'm like, SK car rental? And the guy's like, okay. And he, all right, traffic's picked up. I'll get back to the rental story in a moment here. I'll be right back. Welcome back. It's been quite a few hours now. I have about maybe a half an hour of light left here, maybe a little longer. I am near a Busan forest. That'd probably be the best explanation of where I'm at. I actually just went there and they were closed. And it is what it is, but that kind of stings because going back to the whole rental agency story, which this is going to be like seconds since on the video, but it's been hours for me now. So there was that difficulty finding the place, and so I find it and I'm there thanks to that dude that's in the, you know, the good suit. And I go in and hand him my passport, my international
speed bump is ahead,
and my international driver's license, and he types into his computer and goes, nope, you don't have a reservation. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't have a reservation? He's like, can you give me a reservation number? So I hand him my reservation email on my phone. He takes the number, he types it into his computer, and sure enough, it's there. Another blind intersection. Gotta make sure. Like, I'm on a country road, like bumpkin style road, like very crazy here. I'll get some GoPro footage of it. I have the camera set up so I can. Anyhow, so he types it in. He looks at my passport, looks at the reservation, looks at my passport, looks at the reservation, and I'm kind of wondering, like, what is going on? Like, why does he keep looking back and forth like that? What's going on? Is something wrong? And I think there was a mix-up within the systems. Like, the way that Avis and this SK place was working, it wasn't. I should just put it that way. And I would highly recommend not using Priceline or Avis or any of those companies to book your car. What I mean by that is I would just use SK Rental as its own webpage, or Lotte Rental, which that's my preferred one so far. I've had a good experience with Lotte. SK was kind of weird. It could have been better, but it is what it is. And the one thing that I'm like bummed about is that I asked for a subcompact car, and so I'll be right back once I'm on the highway and we're just going in straight lines. Welcome back. I'm on the freeway now, and it should be a lot smoother. Don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see here in a moment. Okay, so as I was saying, the rental agency, I don't think was communicating with each other. You know, the fact that Avis and all them has zero say or zero signage at this place, right? There's nothing there. And it just made everything more complicated, which is why I was saying before to just rent directly from the Korean rental agency, whether it be SK or Lotte or any other company out there. I'm sure there are plenty more that you could go to. But the way I look at it is that this guy was having such a difficult time getting me a car. And they had cars, because of the COVID entrance rules for them, I had to enter through the garage, and there was a ton of cars down there. Now, the one thing I did not see down there that I was hoping for was, like, they advertised me getting a BMW Mini, or a BMW Mini, a small BMW or a Mini. Like, I think it was like a 1 Series BMW or like a Mini Cooper. And I had high hopes for either of those cars. It'd be crazy if they were rentals. But that's not the main car I wanted. I would have been perfectly happy with another Kia Morning like I got from the Seoul rental, Lotte rental agency. And the problem is, I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. They upgraded me for free. It's it's comfy. I totally forgot about the tolls here. So your tolls are based on the size of your car. And this is such a waste. There's no one in the back seats. At least there's plenty of luggage space, but literally in the Kia, I was just tossing my backpack in the back seat and putting my suitcase in the trunk. And it just dawned on me, because when I was going to this Busan bamboo forest, which unfortunately I did not get to see, I got a little lost, right? I was telling you, I was listening to Nav, and it put me on a road that I shouldn't have been on. And I lost about 20 minutes worth of time. Well, in that 20 minutes, I bumped my driving fee from $120 or 1,200 won to 3,300 won. And so that was a shock to me. Like, I was not expecting such a drastic number. Now, it's not that much money, but the bigger idea is probably the fact that I'm going to be driving for the next 14 days straight. Yeah, 14 days straight. The last 4 days that I'm here in the southern part of South Korea, I'll be taking the bus and everything. So there is that. That kind of sucks. What I noticed was when I was driving the Kia was that typically whatever Nav was saying my toll was going to be, it was about half. And the Kia was the smallest car technically. I just recently saw some cars that were smaller driving around here that you could possibly get on the freeway. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay. And then that was cool. I thought it was because I was using my T-Money card that I was getting a slight discount. And what ended up happening was I just got, when I got the first bill, I was like, oh, okay, wait. It is exactly listed as the price as the computer notes. All right, you know what? I'm probably gonna have to finish this up in the hotel. I'll be back. It's starting to get pretty trafficy right now, so I still got the GoPro footage so I could show it, but I'll be back. See you in a moment. Welcome back from the car to the hotel room. Yeah. It's been a few hours since I was last talking. I actually even had dinner and everything in between. Checking in was kind of weird to the hotel, but that's a different story. So to get back to it, it's like I said, because the car is larger, I'm getting charged what the phone is actually telling, like Naver Maps or navigation is actually telling me that I'm going to get charged now. So that is somewhat of a bummer that because I don't have a compact car, I'm going to get charged more from going to place. And like I said, I have it for the next 2 weeks at least. The longest period I'm going to have a vehicle, I'm going to get charged the most for traveling. Now hopefully there won't be too many paid highways or paid freeways or whatever they're called. Yeah, and maybe I'll try to avoid them if possible, depending on the timing. If it's like a crazy amount of time that I save, I'll just stick to it. But yeah, it's just putting more stuff on my plate, really, when you think about it. I have to think about what I'm actually going to be doing or traveling now, the routes that I'm actually be looking at. So the driving down here is also a little bit crazier than what I was used to up in the northern area. Of course, I only drove in Seoul for those 2 really short periods, maybe 45 minutes apiece, 90 minutes in total. Seoul's pretty crazy, that's true. Busan has been insane, and the streets here are very narrow. When I went to go get dinner, there's people parking on both sides of a 2-lane street, turning it officially into a 1-lane street. So literally, if 2 cars met in the middle, one would have to back up and let the other guy go because there's nowhere else for him to go. It was just not going to happen. It's pretty nuts. And having a larger car does not help in that situation. If anything, it's putting me more at risk. We'll have to see what happens, and knock on wood that everything works out well. I hope for a pretty smooth journey. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on this whole rental process the second time around. I don't know if I mentioned it at the very beginning, but I'm currently driving a Hyundai Avante, and the previous car was a Kia morning, as in like good morning. But I will see you in the next vid.